What is up, everybody? Welcome back to the channel. Let's continue from where we left off in the previous video. So in this playlist, we are going through Learn CSS by building a Ferris wheel, and this is what we are expecting to build at the end. Okay, so far we've done steps 1 to 10. Let's continue with steps 11. So for step 11, we want to create a carbon selector. Let's say carbon. Let's give it a background color of red. Let's also give it a width of 20 pixels. Let's give it a height of 20%. Sorry, 20%. Okay. Now let's move on. Okay, so now the next thing we want to do is we want to give this carbon, which we just created, a position of absolute. Let's also give it a border, and the border we are going to give it is 2 pixels for the size, and then solid for the style. So as you can see, we have our red box here with a black border around it. Now set the carbon to have a transform origin property. So let's say transform origin. Want it to have a transform origin property of 50%, 0%. Okay, let's also set the origin point to be offset 50% from the left. So let's say left 50% and 0% from the top. So let's do top 0%. Okay. Alright, so now for step 14, it's time to position the carbons around the wheel. So as you can see here, we have more than just one carbons. We have a carbon for each line around the wheel. So let's say the way we are going to do that is to select the first carbon. So what we're going to do is we can say dot carbon. We can use first of type, or we can use nth of type like we did. So let's just do first of type for now. And let's see. Let's set the right property to negative 8.5%. Okay. Let's set the top property to 50%. All right, there you have it. We have our first carbon in position. Next up, we also want to be adding the rest of the carbon. So for the rest, I'm just going to say carbon. Let's do nth of type. Let's say 2 for the second one. And then what I want to do is I want to give it a right property of 17%. Let us also give it a top property of 93.5%. Okay, now we have our second carbon in position. So to make this a little bit quicker and easier, I'll just copy and paste for the third one. Third carbon will have a right property of 67, 93.5. So let's do 67 here, 93.5. All right, carbon number 3 is in position. Let's work on carbon number 4. For carbon number 4, we want to have a left property of minus 8.5 and then 50% for top. So I'll say 50% minus 8.5. Wait, yeah, number 4. Good. Now number 4 is in position. So let's look at number 5. For number 5, okay, first let me copy and paste this. Let me change int of type from 4 to 5, and then I'll say number 5 should have a left property of 17% and top property of 7. So 17, 7. Okay, so finally let's work on our 6th carbon. So I'll copy this, paste it here like so, change int of type from 5 to 6, and then I'll give it a right property of 17 and top of 7. Wait. The 5th should have a left property. Okay, so 5th should have a left property, not right. Yeah, I made a mistake. So left, like so. And then I think 4 should also have a left, but I gave it a right. So 4 should also have a left. Yeah. All right, now we have all of our carbons in position. Great work. Let's continue. Okay, so now let's look at something called keyframes. So the keyframes at rule is used to define the flow of a CSS animation. Okay, so within the keyframes rule, you can create selectors for specific points in the animation sequence, such as 0%, 25%, or use from and to define the start and end of the sequence. So the sequence is more like when you want something to happen and when you want something to stop, right? It gives us some sort of a frame. All right, so keyframes rules require a name to be assigned to them, which you use in other rules to reference. So for example, at keyframe FreeCodeCamp, with our bracket rule, will be named FreeCodeCamp. Okay. All right, so let's start animating. Let's create a keyframe rule named wheel. So following this example syntax we have here, we'll say at keyframes and we'll say wheel, which is the name we want to give the keyframe, like so. Wait, keyframes, spelling mistake. All right, now you need to define how your animation should start. To do this, create a 0% rule within your keyframe wheel rule. Okay, so the properties you set in the nested sector will apply at the beginning of the animation. As an example, this will be a 12% rule. Okay, so once you set it at 0%, which means whatever properties we set here will begin at the start of our animation. So we say 0%. Let's give it. Okay, now for now we're just setting the 0% rule. All right, next up, now let's give the 0% rule a transform property, which we are going to set to rotate. So at 0%, we want it to rotate at an angle of 0 degrees. Okay, this will start the animation with no rotation, of course, because it's 0 degrees. So all right, so bring your transform property and then rotate 0 degrees. Now give the keyframes wheel rule 100% selector. Within that, set the transform to rotate 360 degrees. By doing this, your animation will now complete a full rotation. So that means you will rotate from 0% to 360. Okay, so I'll just say 360. Let's do 360 degrees. And let's say transform, rotate, sorry, not 360%, 100%, and then rotate 360 degrees. Okay, so the animation name property is used to link a keyframe rule to a CSS selector. The value of this property should match the name of the keyframes rule. So giving your wheel selector, give your wheel selector an animation name property set to wheel. Okay, so the animation duration, okay, first let's work on the animation name. So we'll say animation name, let's set it to wheel. And then let's do animation duration. And this property is used to set how long the animation should sequence to complete. Okay, so we've already set our animation that it should rotate from an angle of 0 degrees and go all the way to 360 degrees, which is a full circular motion. But the next thing we need to do is how long do we want this animation to take place? So the time should be specified in either seconds or milliseconds. So for seconds, you use S. For milliseconds, you use ms. So let's go ahead and set our wheel selector to have an animation duration property of 10s, which is 10 seconds. So we'll say animation duration 10s. All right, there we go. Now we have our animation working, and it's going to work for 10 seconds. Okay, so what happened here is that we've already created a animation or a keyframe. We created a keyframe which we called wheel. Okay, and then we gave that wheel keyframe as the value for the animation name of this wheel class. Okay, now let's continue, but we will end this one here, this video here. So we've done step 1 to 20. In the next video, we are going to look at step 21 to 28, which will end our walkthrough on CSS animation. All right, so let's end this one here. Give the video a like, and I'll see you in the next one.